to another episode of Inside Chelsea, the show for Chelsea fans by Chelsea fans. I'm Olivia Buzaglo and I'm joined today by Jason Cundy, of course, and broadcaster Matisse Armani. Now, since we were last here, we've had 2 league games, obviously a 0-0 draw with Everton and then a 2-1 defeat at home to Fulham. Let's talk about that Fulham game, guys, because obviously that's the one that's come most recently. Just first of all, the first time they've beaten us at Stamford Bridge for 45 years. I mean, Jason, being 1-0 up with 8 minutes to go of normal time, to lose that 2-1, that hurts a lot.
Yes, it does, Liv. A game that I felt Fulham deserved, actually, to win the game. I haven't got a problem with how they won it, the result. I felt the game was slipping through our fingers, second half. I thought Fulham were good. That left-hand side, they continually went down there. Robinson, they kept going down there. Bassi was another one that kept arriving there. Wobie. And they felt that there was a real weakness in us, in that side. Pedro Neto did more work that way than he did the other side. And that's credit to them because Robertson kept going in for that space early in the game. This was something that was obvious to everyone that watched the game, that this is exactly what they were going to try and do. But we got our noses in front, Liv, and I don't think we were spectacular. The goal was outstanding, of course, it's Cole Palmer. Second half, I did feel that Fulham were the better side, and it was a tough one to take because if you can't win the game, don't lose it. It's an old truism in football, and there's a reason it's like that, because yesterday was the perfect example of, okay, have we been good enough to win the game? No. Don't lose it from here. And I felt that there was a naivety about us. We're a young team with a young manager, his first season in the Premier League. And I thought yesterday we come undone because we've been conceding late goals in games. This is not a new thing. 2-0 up against Leicester, they get the make it 2-1. 4-2 up against Spurs, they get the next goal in the game. Brentford a couple of weeks ago, 2-0 up, they get the goal. And we didn't have that 2-goal buffer, and unfortunately we paid the ultimate price. So disappointing, but not wholly surprising.
Matisse?
Yeah, I just felt watching the game that we never had a grip. You know, when you look at all the controllers that we have on the pitch in Caicedo and Enzo, the amount of work they were having to get through and the lack of options you could maybe see off the bench. Maresca, this is where we start to maybe look at how much does he trust the team? How much are the injuries really impacting, you know, the legs in that midfield? And it's strange to see a team that's played once a week. A lot of those senior players kind of almost gassing out. I don't think it was a quality issue, but I definitely thought the energy levels were a lot lower in that second half, and the drop-off was really bad. And then you're just looking at individual performances, you know, especially in the wide areas. They're just not able to create anything special. And Fulham have taken points off Arsenal. They've taken points off Liverpool. They know how to defend. You know, when they want to go into a shape and they want to be rigid and they want to be compact, they can do it. And then they've got really big ball carriers in, you know, a Damatraore and a Wobie, and they'll take it up the length of the pitch. They'll, you know, like you said earlier about, you know, Pedro Neto, who's basically doing shuttle bus runs down that right-hand side. He was unable to really be able to get on the ball and get his quality going. So it's just frustrating. And then when we're whipping in crosses, of course, when you're looking at Colwell in open play, having to be the closest just offside, Cucurella again, you know, forcing a save. We're not in the attack. We don't have people that can really attack the ball and dominate the penalty area. I thought Anderson was struggling. You know, we could have got more out of him. I think he almost got sent off. So I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity, and it's gutting to lose a game that late as well, especially against Fulham.
What I noticed, so I was actually working yesterday. But I every time I looked up, the game was on in the press room at Wolves where I was, and every time I looked up in that first half, it felt like Cole Palmer had the ball. And do you feel like we could have maybe killed the game off in the first half, Jason? Do you think we had enough chances to do that? Because I remember seeing Palmer pick up the ball in positions where we just almost like had a shot and it just dribbled to Leno and he just picked it up, and maybe could have been a bit more decisive with our final ball, especially in the first half. Anyway.
Yeah, look, it wasn't our best performance, in all honesty. We've had a really good start to this season, make no mistake about that. But in all honesty, we weren't at our shiny, sparkliest best. The Cucurella, Matisse just mentioned it, the Cucurella header, if that falls to Jackson or falls to someone who's a little bit more instinctive in front of goal, even though he scored a diving header a couple of weeks ago, I think either side of Leno, we get that 2-goal cushion. And obviously, the game then, it feels as though it's probably beyond Fulham. But 1-0, we never really, that ruthless streak, it wasn't like both goalkeepers, actually. We're under a huge amount of pressure. Sanchez made a couple of good saves, as did Leno. But in that final third, I felt we were left wanting a little bit. We scored 3 at home against Villa. We're a side that can score goals, can create chances. Felt that we weren't quite at it. And that's all over the park, by the way. I don't think Caicedo had his greatest game. Palmer, second half, trying lots of flicks, didn't quite come off. Jackson, I felt he drifted out the game the longer the game went on. I think collectively and individually, it was probably league-wise one of our worst performances of the season. And you're right, Liv. We weren't first half. Well, if we got I said in comms, need the second goal because you felt that Fulham were. And at 1-0, we've all watched enough football. 1-0, the game is never ever cooked. You need the second goal. It never came, and we paid the ultimate price.
And just to add, Fulham had chances, outside of their goals. You're looking at Bassi, you're looking at Robertson on the back post, you're looking at Jimenez, I believe, shot wide when he should have really been hitting the target. So I think there was a consistency throughout the whole game where we were giving away chances, and that's why we've been saying on this show, we're not ready to really go the length and go the whole way with this title race, because one thing that has been consistent this season, as well as getting goals, has been the defense. We can see it's leaky. We can see that there's errors there, late lapses of concentration and things like that. So it's a learning curve for these these boys for sure.
Is it worrying at all? And I know, obviously, like we say, no one expected us to be in this position. No one expected us to be second in the league at Christmas going into the new year. But going forward in the second half of the season, how do we change this, Matisse? How do we change our inability to kill off games, game management? Because that is such a big thing in football. And especially when you go 1-0 up, we know that if Chelsea go 1-0 up, the game's not won. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So how do we, in the second half of the season, make little changes to ensure that actually, when you do go 1-0 up, we're a little bit better in those final moments to ensure that we're not conceding those late goals?
I think back to front, one thing I noticed it's been happening for a few weeks, is when Nkunku comes on, there's a drastic drop-off in the intensity up front in terms of the press. And I think, Maresca said it publicly quite a few times that he's not a striker. He kind of has to play him there because he's got too many 10s, and he has misprofiled him by playing him there. And listen, I don't know if Guy is really ready for Premier League football to be relied upon, but at the end of the day, he will bring intensity, he will press, he will keep that work rate up, and that will help us defend from the front a bit better in the latter stages of games. And then when you're looking at the midfield, we used to be able to bring on, John Obi Mikel, and that was basically a signal to say this game is over. And Chelsea don't really have anyone to bring on in midfield now, with Lavia being out. I didn't see Drewsbury Hall on the bench. I brought up Andre Santos a few times on this show. I think he's a brilliant player. It's what we have within our own, multi-club model system. We might have to look at bringing him back, because I don't want to see Caicedo and Enzo almost, gassing out as the season goes on, because we haven't got any options in midfield of the quality needed. We can't really be looking to Cassidy to rely upon him. I think Andre Santos has been out on loan now for a year. It'll be January window to January window. And he's proven to be one of the best defensive, on both sides of the ball, but he's proven defensively to be one of the best interceptors, tacklers in League One. So I think at least he could help for sure, and that would help us.
But just on that, I think it's a great point Matisse makes about Guillou. When you say you don't know everybody's ready for Premier League, I think at that stage of the game, I think what you're looking for, as much as anything else, you're 1-0 up, you're looking for energy. Look, he's got 6 and 6. You're not bringing him on to score the winning goal. You're bringing him on for high intensity, closing down. That's one thing he's got in abundance. He will close down things. He will chase lost causes. You've seen some of the goals he's scored in the Conference League. He will give you that. And Nkunku doesn't. And Nkunku, it feels as though his career at Chelsea hasn't even started. And I worry that will be him, and he will eventually have to leave to go and get first team minutes. Just one other thing as well that I felt that we could have done a little bit better. I think we could have brought on legs. Neto was, you mentioned Gas. Neto was up and down, up and down. I'm not quite sure who was going to be that player, but defensively, I wonder whether we needed to freshen things up. Maybe bring on Dizazi. I'm not saying that's but I'm saying we needed something different. If you look at their goal, the equaliser, it was down the left-hand side it come from. Neto he's gone to ground, he'd worked his tail off. He's looking for a foul, ain't a foul. But I felt that kind of situation was coming. And I felt that Maresca, he's only made 4 subs in the last 3 league games. And I think that the question comes, does he trust his players enough? Well, sometimes you have to go and make changes. Silva did. Silva had to, because he was chasing the game. He was duty bound. They sleepwalked into a defeat. But I do feel, looking back, that I think whenever there's a defeat, you have to look internally to yourself, the players, the coaching staff, the management. And I think they will look back on that. And we're a young team, as I said, Maresca, new to Premier League football. I think that this will be one of those games, hopefully, Liv, we look back and you ask the question about what can we do differently going forward. I think this might be one of those line in the sand moments. We go, right, we keep conceding late goals. There's a pattern emerging, a worrying pattern emerging.
They've given Achampong a new contract. Sorry, so I mean, I know he's young, but there's young defenders in this league. You know, Lenny Yora's come in for Manchester United. He's 19, so maybe there needs to be some trust that he could come on for Gusto if Reece James still not back fit and go in at right back. I know it's a different position to striker, a lot more pressure to, you know, they're attacking down that left hand side constantly, and you know, throwing a young defender on is a bit of a gamble. But I just felt, the way Gusto and Neto were struggling on that side. Better to do something than to do nothing, really. It was coming.
Matisse, do you think that's maybe one criticism? I mean, we haven't got a lot of criticisms for Enzo Maresca because he's been brilliant, really, since he's come in, exceeded all expectations. But is that maybe one criticism we can look at and go, make changes? He waits too long, and also sometimes he just doesn't make enough of them. Like Jason says, we needed legs, and it just felt like the only sub he made in that Fulham game was Nkunku for Jackson, and it just felt like it's almost just like he's doing it because he feels like he has to, but he doesn't really want to change much. It feels, do you know what I mean? Do you think that's maybe one criticism of him?
I think it will be something that they'll have to go into the boardroom at some point in January and speak about as a group, because it will involve the recruitment team as well. You know, we've kind of spoken about the squad depth and how much quality is going through this Chelsea team. However, obviously in Conference League, that isn't really the place or the domain to kind of prove that the money spent and the quality and the backup players are Chelsea level. When we have Champions League, hopefully next season, that is when you're going to need to be able to rotate, you trust your squad. And if he doesn't trust all of his squad, that will be something that needs to be looked at. I think.
Sorry, just to interrupt, Matisse. Do you think he trusts his squad?
Well, it's not looking like he does at the moment, because you're looking at João Felix. I don't know why he couldn't come on in the last couple of games. You're looking at his performance against Leicester away from home off that left hand side. I don't think Jadon Sancho was very good at all. Yesterday, Cole Palmer was fading that second half. He faded against Everton as well. It didn't feel like he was going to, go on an upward curve and get better as the game went on. So maybe he could have been taken off as well. He's spoken about João Felix in press conferences before, saying that, he's the reason you buy the ticket, him and Cole Palmer. They can change things, make things happen. I'm just surprised that he's not brought him on, because, when Chelsea need just energy, Cole Palmer was also looking tired, was looking pretty gassed out. So I think he's spoken brilliantly about the squad. He's spoken very well. Obviously, he said that the door's open for January exits if they want to leave, but he wants to keep people. But in games like that where you've got a bench, I know it's not the strongest because there's injuries, but we've still got talent on that bench. There's still players. There's still seniors. Disasi, could you bring him on? As Jay said, you're playing a back three anyway. Gusto's playing as a right side centre back. We've seen Disasi play there before. If you're not bringing these guys on when we're struggling defensively, what does that tell us? It tells us that you must not be confident in their ability to defend, to come on.
Jace, with that, obviously Cole Palmer lacking. He did look, I didn't think he had his best game against Everton. Obviously in the first half against Fulham, I thought he was pretty good. Yep. I'm on the sort of side where you don't take off Cole Palmer. And it was quite interesting. There was like a debate on X whether, you take off someone like Cole Palmer and put on João Felix, because that's the position that João Felix plays in, and in that number 10 role. Obviously you can play João Felix off the left. Naturally he'll come inside and that's fine. But where do you stand on it? I'm like, Cole Palmer for me is that one player in that team that in any given moment, he can do something that's going to win you a game. And I don't think we have players like that. I think he is one of very few in the Premier League that have that ability. But when he is playing like he did in that second half against Fulham, should Enzo Maresca be taking him off and giving someone like João Felix a chance? Because what's the point of having him on the bench if you're not going to give him a chance when things aren't going well?
It's a great question. I think there's two parts to this answer. If you need a goal, I understand the argument. We need a goal, we need something brilliant. But in the games that you're talking about, certainly against Fulham at 1-0 up, look, we just seen Bukayo Saka pick up an injury. The boy plays every single week. And I think we need to be very careful over Christmas, this period. What we don't want is to be keeping Cole Palmer on every game. I think there is a moment, actually, where you could add some fresh legs. I don't think it's a slight on Cole. Everyone knows how brilliant he is. He's even beaten Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank's record for the most amount of goals in a calendar year. We're talking about a special player. And of course, if you need a goal, it's hard not to take him off. Hard not to consider taking him off. But can you imagine a scenario where he bottomed Felix yesterday and we end up losing 2-1? Can you imagine what the criticism would have been?
Yeah.
So it's a tough one for Maresca because he is our best player. He's our most important player up the top end of the pitch. But I think there's an argument, and I made the point in the comms against Everton, and I raised it yesterday as well, that actually taking him off, I don't think that says anything about his ability. I think it just says, you know what, we might need something different. You're a young lad, you played pretty much every single game you're fit. I know he's not in the conference squad. He won't play in the FA Cup in a couple of weeks' time. But I think there are times and moments in games, and I think we tend to go, I don't have a problem with Felix coming on, fresh ideas, fresh pair of legs. I don't have a problem with that at all.
I mean, talking of Cole Palmer then, let's talk about him because, like you said, Jace, broke Chelsea's record. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank set it with 25 goals in a calendar year. Cole Palmer has scored 26, still got one game to go as well, Ipswich on the 30th. Also, to take nothing away from Cole Palmer, but can you, Lionel Messi scored 91 goals in a calendar year.
Crazy.
What?
Crazy.
How's that even a thing? But anyway, back to Cole Palmer, because 26 is still very impressive, I'll have you know. But also, what a way to do it. I know we've seen this a million times from him, Matisse. We've seen goals where the one against Everton at home, I think last season stands out, the little nutmeg and the pass into the corner to shrug off. He's not the most physical player. He's not the most quick. He very rarely uses his weak foot, yet you cannot stop him.
It's incredible. When I was watching that goal, it was almost like he was, again, he plays in his own pace. We talk about Premier League pace. We talk about players having to get used to the pace of the Premier League. He plays at his own pace, Cole Palmer pace. He just glides, received the ball in half turn. I was loving those passes we were playing because they were going straight through the heart of Fulham. And once he got the ball and turned, and they had a few injuries, I think, in midfield coming into this game. So they was maybe taken by surprise, some of them guys. But as soon as he was getting the ball in half turn, then he's got options to his left, to his right. He can take his shots. I think he could have actually had more goals in that game as well, with the quality and the standard that he usually plays at. So it was a beautifully taken goal. And I love a finish like that where you aim it and weight it perfectly. It's not a smash. It's something that he's clearly trained. He's clearly worked on in training. It's not something that you can just turn up and do. It didn't look like he hit with loads of power, but the keeper was never getting anywhere near it. It's brilliant.
If I was Leno, I'd be insulted because he's literally he won't be now because Leno made a few good saves and they won the game. But to concede a goal like that, where he's literally just past him, and you can see it dribbling, but you literally just can't get close to it. He's level with Haaland, Jason, for 26 goals, and also this is coming from a number 10 that picks up the ball from deep. He's competing with an out and out number 9 in Erling Haaland, who really doesn't move from the box. Mohamed Salah, who stays on the right wing and picks the ball up there most of the time. Yep. I know we've spoken about how special he is, but to be putting up these numbers as a midfielder, which is what he is, just makes it even more incredible in just his second year in professional football, really. Yeah, look,
he's got the lot. We're talking about a very special talent here, and he will go on and he will get as many caps for England as he is fit. There was another stat I noticed in his first 50 Premier League games. Only 2 players have had more goal involvements in their first 50 Premier League games, Erling Haaland and Andy Cole. So that's the levels that he has reached already. Going back to the goal, I saw an interview because he nutmegs Diop. And they said, did you mean to do it? And he's gone, yeah. Yeah. in that only that Cole Palmer way that he casually answers every question what a stupid question that is.
What a stupid question, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. But we're so lucky to have him. And he is a game changer and he can win games single-handedly on his own. We've seen evidence of that already. But going back to the other question you asked there, Liv, can he be taken off? yes, if the game is right, if the moment is right, and you want to add fresh, something different, Felix and Nkunku. I mean, you could have brought Guillaume on, and you could have put Nkunku on as well, or Felix. And I personally, as Matisse said, I thought Guillaume, that might have been the moment for him. But in terms of what we got with Cole Palmer, he's an outstanding talent, and you know, we need to hold on to him, because you know, we know what he has, ambitions to win the biggest trophies in the world. We have to match that ambition as well. Make sure we keep pressing.
Don't worry, Jace. We've got him for another 25 more years anyway on that long contract. So we're fine. Matisse, we've actually spoken about this before, and I mean, Pep Guardiola could do with a Cole Palmer right now. Christ, I can't win a game to save their lives. But we have spoken about the fact that it wasn't Pep's decision; it was Cole Palmer's decision. But what I'm struggling to deal with is how on earth Pep Guardiola didn't see the talent of Cole Palmer in training with those players every single day. And like, if anyone could have spotted that, I would have thought that Pep was that person. And I know there's plenty of players that City have let go, and most of them have worked out. You know, you can't count many that they've let go and thought, oh, but this is one that surely Pep and City will be regretting for however many years.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent to when we let go of Kevin De Bruyne, and we let him go quite early. Now, we was in the midst of our own success then, winning a Premier League title under Jose Mourinho, and it's almost like when you do have that level of success and you do build those loyalties, and you know, these are where the intangibles come in between manager and player. Klopp had it with Liverpool, probably trusting and believing in players, you know, too long, or getting wrapped up within the squad that you're working with. We know Pep likes to work with a very small group of players. He said it before. He's probably left himself short this season because of that. When you have that history, it's almost like a relationship. You know, you can't break up. And he didn't see Cole Palmer coming, because Cole Palmer hasn't won him a Premier League, or Cole Palmer hasn't won him a Champions League, but he was the heir to the throne. And I think with Pep, he and Man City did get caught a little bit up in the whole selling of the academy players. We've done it before as well. You're making crazy profits. You can't believe your eyes. The budget's just booming. But at the end of the day, you've got to future-proof. And now when you look at Man City and the lack of service that they give Haaland week in, week out, they can't seem to find him. Foden's fallen this season as well. He doesn't look the same. They don't have the Mahrez type of creativity off that right-hand side that Palmer obviously gave us last season. And now they don't have a fully fit Kevin De Bruyne week in, week out in that 10 possession. And the goal that he scored against Fulham was very Kevin De Bruyne-esque, the way he passed it into the net like that. So I think they've definitely made a mistake. I think they know that. I don't think I don't think they're going to be sitting there thinking that they haven't. And maybe we've got one back for losing De Bruyne all those years ago, because he's also turned out to be one of the greatest Premier League players of all time.
Yeah, we have. I mean, hopefully Cole Palmer can go on to have the career Kevin De Bruyne has had at City, but at Chelsea. Obviously, we've been talking about whether, you know, Maresca should be bringing off Cole Palmer and should be bringing on João Felix and other players on the bench. Now, one player he couldn't call upon against Fulham was Noni Madueke. Now, this is what Maresca described as a technical decision, Jace. To me, that just means that he doesn't fancy him for whatever reason. Something's happened, and he has questioned his attitude before. What obviously is frustrating as a fan, because you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, is against a low block team, and I'm not saying Fulham were that, but we did have a lot of the ball. We had a lot of possession, and Noni is quite good in those situations against Forest, against Brentford. He played a big part in getting us back into those games and picking up points. So where do you stand on this? Enzo Maresca sticks to his guns? You know, if something happens and he doesn't like it, you won't be in the squad.
I think something we all really love about Maresca is his straight talking, whether it be to the press about what's going on the pitch or upstairs, or be about players. He did, if you remember, have some advice for Reece James, wanted to be a bit more of a leader. He's come out and criticised Noni in the past about his training. He shoots from the hip, and I think you have to accept that there are going to be times where, if he's going to be this type of manager, he's going to make calls. He was dropped. Let's call it for what it is. He was dropped, and that's now up for, and it was an expensive decision because we went on to lose the game. Okay, so Maresca will then have to think about, did I make the right call? Could I have had him on the bench? To have called on him. Neto, as we said, was up and down all game, fresh pair of legs. So I think Maresca will have to deal with that. I don't have a problem with Maresca dealing with the players the way he has. So far, so good. It's up to Noni now. You know, come on, what do you want? in your future. Because actually the games when he went to the last international break, I thought Noni for England was outstanding. But the best performances that he'd had in that month weren't in a Chelsea shirt. They were in an England shirt. And I think, look, he's a young boy. We're a young squad. And as I mentioned before, Maresca is still very much in the infancy of his managerial career. And I think there's a learning curve for everyone here. Over to you, Noni. Do you want to get yourself back in that squad for Ipswich? And then Maresca has to wrestle with the decision made that he made against Fulham. He might be thinking now, if only I had him to call on with 15, 20 minutes to go. So I don't have a problem with it, but let's call it for what it is, Liv. He was dropped.
Yeah.
Matisse, do you feel like this is like a reoccurring theme?
Yeah.
It's not the first time we've seen this happen. It's not the first time we've seen Maresca talk about Noni. But like Jason says, the only person who can change this is Noni. And if he's got the right attitude and the right mentality, he will be back in the squad for Ipswich. But it's all on him now. We shouldn't be putting too much of the blame on Maresca. Maresca is the manager and he needs to make those tough decisions. But really, the only person that can change this is Noni himself.
Yeah, I think it's disappointing because, you know, we needed that option off the bench, and he, you know, I think there's levels to it. You know, if you're in training and you're not as good as the next person, usually that would see you on the bench, and that would be your reasoning as to why you're on the bench, because you haven't trained as well as the other players, or you're not playing as well, your form. But he was taking out the whole squad. So I think, you know, to make a call like that, and then you're seeing the academy boys on the bench and Casadets and players that Maresca knows that aren't probably ready to help him in such a tight London derby, that speaks volumes. And I think Noni, he was linked with Newcastle, I think, last summer for you know, parts of the window. Esteval Willian is obviously coming in the summer as well. He's highly rated by the board and obviously the scouts. He has to be very careful that this doesn't become a ongoing, repetitive sequence of events, because if it does, I wouldn't be surprised if he is in the shop window again and Chelsea are looking for more players, because Chelsea, one thing they're not afraid to do under this ownership is make transfers. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, I think Matisse is right there. Absolutely right. That you mentioned, there's going to be a lot of cover on that right-hand side next summer, and they will turn a profit. They'll make money on Noni. So you're right, Matisse. They've shown already this under this ownership, they will sell players if they feel it's the right thing.
Do you think this is going to be a quiet? Obviously, we're sort of heading into the January transfer window, and over the last few years, transfer windows just haven't been quiet for Chelsea. They've been active the whole time. But Jace, do you think this January is going to be pretty quiet in terms of comparisons to the last few?
God, we're Chelsea. Who knows? My gosh.
Probably not.
Look, I expect there to be some players that go out on loan. Chilwell is the obvious choice right there. Casadei might feel he needs more minutes. David Washington might feel he needs more first team minutes. I think had Mudryk not been in the situation he finds himself in right now, he might have been another one that benefited from a loan period away from the club. I don't see any big money signings coming in, Liv, if I'm honest. No. But as this ownership have proved, they will, if they feel it's the right thing to do, they will go out and they'll find a way to improve the squad. And it's so difficult to say. But if you have to ask me right now, do I feel we need anything? No, I don't. I think Acheampong coming through in the Conference League, I think he's shown that if we are desperate at right back, there is someone who can come in. If Reece is not fit, Casado can play in there. I think we've got enough cover in the middle of the park. No, it doesn't feel like it's going to be a big window for us.
Matisse, do you think we need anything? I know you've mentioned Andre Santos at Strasbourg potentially coming back in January. Is that would you be up for that? And is there anyone else you'd want to see?
I think obviously it depends on our objectives and our ambitions, but I think with each passing day, I'm definitely looking at that midfield and thinking, how much can I rely upon Lavia to stay fit? And if he can't stay fit, then I don't want to risk Caicedo and Enzo, burning out, especially when we've seen games where he's played all three of them. And I think that could be the same case with Santos. I think he could play with Caicedo in a pivot. And I think he could push Enzo back up into the half spaces as he's done with Palmer. And you could see all of them on the pitch. So I just think in terms of not taking too much risk with the top four, I think we'll get it. But I do look at that. I look at the striker position as well. I think Chelsea will wait until the summer because they've got interest in maybe Liam Delap or other players that are going to probably move at the end of the season. I don't think they'll try to rush that decision. But then I need the manager to trust you a lot more in the Premier League, even if he's not ready, but at least bring him on in circumstances where we need energy. And I think outgoings will be key, because if Dewsbury Hall does leave, if Nkuku does leave, if a couple of players move in those positions, then we'll have to look in the market maybe and see if we have the depth. I think when I look at as well that Renato Vega side as well, Cucurella, the drop off when he wasn't in Everton, that's another thing that we got to look at. He was massive for us this season, and we seem to be very reliant upon him. I think we should be fine, but we cannot afford to get injuries to certain players. But I think that's the case for most Premier League clubs, to be honest.
Yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, touching on Everton there, Matisse, because you just mentioned it and we haven't really spoken about it. I mean, we all did sit there and say we probably would take a point away at Goodison, because, Jace, we never win there. We've got such a bad record there. And in the grand scheme of things, when you looked at the game, did you think that was a good point away from home?
It was a good point after the final whistle at Everton. It turned into a bad point when we got beat by Fulham. So it's always about what does that point look like when you look back over 2 games? We got 1 point and 6. Then all of a sudden you go, right, that's not a good return there. If we got a point, we beat Fulham, I think you still have that same conversation. But in isolation, Everton away historically has been a tricky place to go. And look,
been horrific.
And look, Everton have shown again. They've the last 3 games they played Arsenal, Chelsea, and City. No one's beaten. So maybe that point away actually isn't as bad because of what they've done away at Arsenal and what they've done away at Manchester City. So I think we've got to accept that. Yes, good point. But when you put them and Fulham together, all of a sudden it's 1 out of 6, not necessarily a great return there.
Yeah. I think Everton was I don't like to talk about the weather conditions, but I could tell within the first 10, 15 minutes, this is going to be a terrible game.
Do you know what, Matisse? Do you know what annoyed me was the weather was worse for our game than the Merseyside derby that got called off. It was horrific.
It was crazy.
It's horrific for both teams. I get it, but they couldn't even take a free kick without the ref was like, "We'll take it," and I was like, "I can't. The ball's rolling away. How can I take a free kick?"
They say styles make fights, isn't it? And it is the same for both teams. But Everton's direct, long ball play is obviously going to suit that a lot more than us trying to keep it on the ground and be really intricate and break down a low defensive block, and everything needs to be perfect. We're one thing I'll say with us, we're not a percentage pass team, in my opinion. I think we're very much ball to feet. Maybe the ball will go down the channels, but we're not a team that can cross the ball with a heavy amount, and win crazy headers and go for those kind of almost Drogba at Everton vibes where, you just kick it up to him, he chests it, turns and smashes it. And you're like, what? Well, that was a 1 in a million moment. Everything for us is a little bit more coordinated, a little bit more planned. So I don't think it suited us. But I obviously I just want to win every game, but that was a point that you could definitely understand. I think the Fulham one is the one that's really, really tough to take.
You mentioned there, Matisse, about playing long balls, and we've all noticed, right? Sanchez playing longer balls. This has been a feature over the last 3 or 4 games where Sanchez, and that was how we eventually lost the ball, if you remember, for their winner. Even though I think that there was a poor pass up front from Sanchez, I thought Cucurella being an offside position where he's give it there. I think you make the challenge for the ball, the offside flag goes up, and you regroup. But that'll do. But we've all noticed it, right? Sanchez going longer, and we give the ball away a lot that way. You can see why Maresca wants to play keeping the ball.
That's where their goal came from.
Exactly that. Yeah. Exactly that.
That's where their goal came from. It's so annoying.
Exactly
it's so annoying. So
I know, but then you can see exactly why Sanchez has been told not to kick it long. Yet I find it really interesting that recently he is doing it out of choice. And Maresca said if he does that, he won't be in the team. But that's something I've really noticed a change in his game.
Yeah. I mean, we used to have Marcus Alonso at left wing back. We used to always go out.
Yeah,
the good old
he was an outlet. He'd win the first header, and then we build from there. So it's all about having outlets. But you look at obviously when you got Sancho on the wing. We went long to him quite a few times. He's good at taking a first touch or chesting it, but it is a tall order to keep asking these nimble, shorter players to take the ball out of the sky every single time. It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, talking about taking the ball out of the sky, this is a complete side note, but Matheus Cunha at Wolves the other day, Cruyff turned it out of the sky. So if any Chelsea players want to do that, that would be great.
He's having an incredible season.
Oh my God, he would start. We were having this conversation today. He would start for Chelsea, and he would start for every. I think he would start for every.
He's outrageously good. He's outrageous.
I genuinely think he's that good. Like I was watching him yesterday, and I was thinking, oh my God, imagine him. Like obviously he plays in a similar position to Cole Palmer, I would say, but slightly off the left is what I'd also say. So if you don't want an out-and-out winger, then Matheus Cunha, I'd be open.
So you want to spend money in January?
Oh yeah, if it's Matheus Cunha, I'm there for it. But I do not think Wolves are going to sell in January. Sadly. I do think he'll leave in the summer. Yeah. How big, Jace, does these couple of results now make this Ipswich game? Because I think everyone was looking at these sort of runner games, being like, we've come through the hard bit. Yeah. We've now got Everton, Fulham, and Ipswich and Palace, but actually these are the games we've struggled in. And now if we don't go and win away at Ipswich, which I think sometimes can be a tough game, sometimes can be an easy game. Some teams have made it look easy, but some teams have struggled. You sort of never know what Ipswich team you're going to get. But suddenly, if you don't win there, you're looking at your winless in 3 and struggling again.
Yeah, there's a little bit of pressure that's mounted. For the first real time this season, I felt that we need to go and pick up 3 big points. Because of how well we've started, second in the table as this show is being recorded. I expect us to be third going into the game against Ipswich because Arsenal should beat Ipswich. Like they play 24 hours after we did. Yes, you're absolutely right. Ipswich have yet to win at home. And you'd think to yourself,
oh, don't say that.
Please don't be that club. Don't be that team. I know
Jace, we love being a charity club.
Yes.
Do you remember when Arsenal went on that ridiculous run, hadn't won in about 15? They played us on Boxing Day, and what happened?
Yeah. Well, yes, they've beaten Spurs away, and Spurs are very much like that this season, I have to say. But look, it's a game that if we bring our A game, they bring their A game, we win. But we've seen that we concede late goals, and that I'm really concerned about that at the moment. That's the one area that I'm really, because Ipswich are a team that will keep going. There's only one game they've been beaten by more than 2 goals this season. They remind me a little bit of Luton last season. They'll give you a game. They're not going to change the way that they play, and more often than not, they come up short. But there will be a moment where that industry, that crowd, and that dip from the opposition, there will be that moment that they get that victory at home against a big team. It's going to come. And let's just hope we go into the new year still very much with that intact.
Matisse, can you just talk for a minute? Because I'm just now so scared that we're just going to go to Ipswich and they're going to batter us.
Well, do you know what? This is the Premier League at the end of the day. And I think when we looked at these fixtures coming up, we all said they were favourable, and rightly so. However, you have to play the game. You still have to play the match and the opponent and the team. And we know Chelsea have had, their struggles with low blocks, with Nottingham Forest dropping points, Crystal Palace. And obviously now the last couple of games, we've had very difficult defensive blocks to go up against. So it's just a friendly reminder that the game is not ever played on paper. Teams are always going to strategize and go against the grain and try to nullify an attacking team like ourselves, who are one of the best at shots and goals and all of these fantastic attacking metrics we're leading in, chances created. But yeah, it's the Premier League is a beast, and the teams around us are dropping points to the same clubs we are. So it's not panic stations. It's not anything out of the ordinary. Everybody's struggling with the same issue we have, and we just have to. The one thing we can say is that we've got time on our side, because it's a young team, it's a young manager, and he's figuring it out for the first time. This is his first season in the Premier League, so he's going to make mistakes and he's going to make errors. But I think the fact that we've had the kick up the backside the last couple of games, one thing I know we won't be doing going into that Ipswich game is underestimating them. We won't be under at all. Yeah.
Do you expect Maresca to stick with the same team? I know obviously the change he made was Cucurella coming in, obviously back from his suspension in the Everton game. Do you expect him to go with the same starting 11 now? That's his preferred starting 11. That's the team we're going to see.
I think the wingers could be switched, at least for me. I think Felix, he had a great game against Leicester at the King Power. He
hasn't played since, has he? That's really weird.
He worked incredibly hard that game. He pressed. His off the ball movement was fantastic. Getting back into shape. I think for me, I'd like to see him start. Noni, it all depends on training and whether or not he gets back in Maresca's good books in regards to coming back into the squad. I don't think we have any option for Jackson up front from the start, to be honest. I think it's a shame, but I don't think we have it. And defensively, I think Tosin, Colwell, they're trying to build up a chemistry and a relationship there. Obviously, Cucurella, the midfield. So I don't think there's much room. I think what Jay said was quite important about Sanchez. The manager said about going long or trying to keep the ball and whatnot. He said, if you're not taking the high risk passes that I'm asking you to take, then you'll be out the team. I don't know if that's going to apply to him at some point. We know Jorgensen played against Southampton. Maybe there's some rotation there. But yeah, I think you don't want to make too many changes, but I definitely think a few would just keep everybody on their toes and say, listen, I will take you out the team if you're not performing.
Yeah, you don't want people to get too comfortable, do you, Jace? Because it's all good and well, obviously, knowing a first 11, and you look at most Premier League winning sides, you can pick that you know exactly who's starting in every position. But when things are going wrong a little bit, and maybe pressure is one thing, maybe it is best to just switch it up and not let them get too comfortable, like Jace says.
I think in terms of what... Look, we've got a big squad, but actually with the squad that we had at the weekend, the only one I can make a case for coming back in is Noni. We might find Vega gets himself into that squad. He was missing as well, by the way. Lavia, what's the situation with him? Because if Lavia comes back, that gives us another option in the middle of the park, which is absolutely crucial. But Cucurella is going to be at left back, all things considered. Tosin, it looks like it's going to be Tosin. Badiashile doesn't look like he's going to get anywhere at the moment. That's the partnership he's building. I don't see Gusto missing out unless he wants to play Caicedo at right back. That means Lavia's got to come back in. Who knows there? Enzo starts. He's the captain. Neto starts, although he looked gassed towards the end of the game. Jackson starts. Palmer's got to start. There's not that many. Oddly, there's nothing that leaps off the page. You go, you can do that for that. That for the moment, from what we saw on the bench, doesn't really look like there's much choice for Maresca unless he decides to bring back Noni, unless Lavia is fit.
It would be a big jump for him to not bring Felix on back-to-back games and then go and start him in this match. It'd be a massive sway.
Yeah, definitely. How do you see this game going?
I think we can win. I think the quality is always there. The quality is always there.
That wasn't the most confident I think we can.
No,
win.
it's not purely because
I think we can win. Yeah, a bit more.
Purely because Ipswich, like Jay said, they're relentless, and I hope I just hope we can control the game. I think if we get back to the level of just keeping the ball, controlling it, being patient, being a bit more mature, not having this gung ho, this back and forth, and just relying on our technical ability and proving ourselves in that way, I think we'll be fine. I think if this becomes a basketball match and it's end-to-end and Liam Delap and all these guys, that's when I start to worry, especially with the crowd, because then they've got something to be excited for. But I think, the quality, the golfing quality between the two teams is astronomical. We just have to show it. But I need individuals like Sancho and Neto to do more. I think I need more goal scoring from them, shots on goal. I need more variety in terms of their chance creation. I think they're both a bit predictable in that last game. You know exactly what Sancho is going to do with the many little touches. You know what Neto is going to do with the cross. Can I get a little bit something different? Some different variety from those two. I think will be important.
We'll get chances against Ipswich. They will give you chances. They're absolutely that will happen. It's whether we take them. Silva, I thought, was excellent man management, going to a 3 or a 5, depending which way you look at it. That he tactically he tweaked things and he got the better of us. But if we bring our A game, we will beat Ipswich.
Yeah, Liam Delap, though, just quickly, before we move on to a Hazard versus Salah debate, which is always my favourite to do. Matisse, Liam Delap's going to be a handful. He's proved that this season, no matter who they play. Yep. He's been wicked.
Yeah. He's linked with us. I think we're linked with him. Obviously, he's a former City striker, so Joe Shields will know him very well, and they would have seen him in the academy. He's a handful. He's quite a. He's quite good with his feet, very, very quick with his feet, but he's quite a big lad at the same time, and he's got a shot on him. So we've got to keep an eye on him. We have to keep an eye on him. I think that will be down to Tosin and Colwell to share that responsibility and try and mark him out of the game. But I think if we get touch tight, we don't give him any time and space. We let our presence be felt a little bit, and the dark arts, as they say. He's a young kid, so it's not like he's a seasoned veteran striker. He's still got a lot to learn himself. So if we can rough him up a bit and show him that we're on a serious game, then I think we should be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. Right. Before we leave, I see this debate on my timeline about 85 times a day, I swear. It never goes anywhere. Mohamed Salah versus Eden Hazard, which is like, I think it's a really tough comparison, because Hazard was a player that picked the ball up from deep, sort of dictated a game. It was played at his tempo. It was played however he wanted to play it. Salah's a player that picks up the ball on the right-hand side, stays very high. Both, obviously, Salah's got the numbers on his side. Hazard's got the aesthetically pleasing, the Cole Palmer. I wanna watch football because I love players like that. Jace, where do you stand on the Eden Hazard, Mohamed Salah debate? I mean, if you're not on the, I'd be surprised if you weren't on the Eden Hazard side. But
do you know what,
obviously,
Liv?
it's an interesting debate, isn't it?
It is, and it is, and as football fans, these debates will rage. And it's always, it's who was better, Pele or Maradona? I remember that debate back in the 80s. You guys won't remember that because you're too young. But then you get that, the Maradona and Messi debate, and that's and look, that's
Messi,
just what
Ronaldo.
That's what we do. In terms of the two players, I'll sum them up very quickly. Hazard can win you a game without scoring. Salah wins you a game because he scores. His numbers are insane. Yes, he's got the assists as well. But Hazard, you were talking about who's the better finisher. It's Mohamed Salah. Who's the better technically gifted player? It's Eden Hazard. But I just wonder, because Mohamed Salah, you've got to give this man credit. His numbers are off the clock. They are insane.
He's inevitable.
Numbers.
I would use inevitable.
Every game, Liv. He has an assist or a goal. That is special. Honestly, that is special. But in terms of technical, natural, gifted footballing ability, you can't compare the two.
Yeah.
Hazard, I just wonder if Hazard had Mo Salah's dedication to the game, mentality. I think Hazard played football. He's one of those players because he could and he loved it and he was good at it and he just played with a smile on his face. Hazard had the ability to be right up there with the very, very best. I don't know whether that was his drive. Salah wants to be the very best. You can tell because he looks after his physique. I see Hazard sometimes after pre-season come on the pitch, and you think to yourself, "Where's he been? You know what's he been up to? You know?"
I remember there was this one where I remember, and I was like, "He's actually fat. He's actually come back from pre-season fat."
But Hazard, if you pay your money to watch football. You're paying to watch Eden Hazard. But Salah's numbers, again, what's he got, 19 goals this season?
It's ridiculous,
He's got something like that. He's touching 20 already, whatever it is. Yeah. His assists is off the clock. His numbers are insane. He'll go down as a Premier League legend. We saw the best of Hazard. That's the best thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for when he was in the Premier League, he was the best player in the Premier League. And I don't even think he wanted to be the best player in the Premier League. I don't think that was ever his, like you say, Jace, I don't think that was ever his ambition. His ambition was never to be the best. I think he showed some ambition by going to Real Madrid because as a kid, that's what he dreamt of, to get that big move. Not a lot of players get that big move to a dream club. But if he had that mentality that Salah and Ronaldo have, and even Messi, but Messi, again, is very similar to Hazard in terms of natural talent and natural ability. But I think what goes against Hazard is the fact that Real Madrid move went really badly. I think the fact that we forget that Hazard did it from when he was a 17-year-old kid in Lille, was one of the best players in Ligue 1 at that time, before he came to Chelsea, was doing it in Europe. Obviously, for me, he's my favourite Chelsea player ever. You know, and that's with Frank Lampard and John Terry, that's very hard to say, but there was just something about him and the way I just loved watching him play. And I would go to Chelsea and watch him for 90 minutes. I wouldn't even watch the game. I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Matisse, where do you stand on this debate? It's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, it's hard to pick between the two, really.
I think they're not even the same type of winger. You know,
they're not at all the same type of winger.
I don't think there's a comparison. I think if people want to make a comparison between, you know, maybe Mane and Salah, you know, you could, because of the way that they were used in that system. But Hazard was dropping into midfield. He would pick up the ball off the centre back, sometimes in centre mid, and dribble past 2-3 players. He'd link up with whoever he wanted to. Sometimes he'd drift over to the right. He'd go into the 10. He'd drift to the left. That, you know, his role was, there was a lot more freedom to it and there was a lot more expression to it than Salah's, which is, of course, I've seen Salah can, you know, outside the left boot, give a little pass in behind. He can run off the wing. You know, he's showing creativity as well. But I think Hazard's creativity can't be quantified. And I think a lot of people, they look at the statistics, they look at the metrics, they look at the numbers, and they think, oh, well, I can judge that player off of that. You can't judge Zidane off of taking the ball out of the sky with one touch and then swiveling and turning and smashing a through ball in, and then 3 passes later, there's a goal. That kind of creativity can't be judged. So I think it's dangerous to go down a statistical route. To the Liverpool fans that are desperate to continue to hammer down this comparison when Salah keeps playing every week, I'll just say then Lampard statistically is better than Gerrard, and we leave it at that. You know, you can't win both debates. So,
you can't. Very, very
so,
true.
you know, so as simple as that, really, for me. I'm winning one of these debates. I know that.
Yeah, Matisse, you are spot on. I think they are both incredible players, and you know, both very special in their own ways. But yeah, we are team Eden Hazard. Of course we are. That is it, guys, for another episode of Inside Chelsea. We have had a great time. We will be back to hopefully be a little bit more positive about our results. Jace, thank you so much. Matisse, thank you.
Happy New Year, guys.
Been brilliant. Guys,
Happy New Year.
We'll see you next year.
Wow.
Up the Chelsea.
Up the Chelsea.
Up the Chelsea.